The thing about being old in America is this: people will call you sir while they quietly erase you. My name is Walter Grayson, 72, retired union electrician. The kind of man who spent 35 years keeping other people's lights on, then came home to a house that eventually stopped feeling like mine. It started with small edits. A new lock on the back door for safety. A Ring camera I didn't ask for pointed straight at the porch swing I used every evening. My grandson Ryan called it smart security. I called it what it was, a leash. Ryan moved in after his startup failed. That's how it was framed. Temporary, my daughter Melissa promised, smoothing my shoulder like I was the child, just until he gets back on his feet. He didn't get back on his feet. He got comfortable standing on my neck. He took over the garage, then the den, then my fridge shelf. He complained about my pills sitting on the counter like they were clutter. He replaced my coffee with his protein powder and called it an upgrade. The hardest part wasn't the disrespect. It was my daughter pretending not to see it. That Friday evening in late October, the air outside smelled like leaf smoke and rain. I came in from the yard, hands cold, boots muddy, carrying the last bag of raked leaves. I'd done it because I still believed in taking care of what's yours. Ryan was in the living room with his feet on my coffee table, remote in hand, watching a game he didn't care about. A laptop was open on his knee like he was working, but the screen was filled with some flashy investment chart. Melissa stood by the kitchen island, stirring something that wasn't even for dinner, some fancy green drink Ryan demanded because processed food is toxic. She didn't look at me when I walked in. "Hey," I said, letting the word hang there, "we need to talk." Ryan muted the TV with a click so sharp it felt like a slap. "About what?" he asked, not taking his eyes off me. His smile was polite, but his tone had teeth. "About this," I said, spreading my hands to the room. "About you acting like this is your place." Melissa's spoon paused. She still didn't look up. Ryan leaned back like a king in a borrowed throne. "Grandpa, don't start." I watched my daughter's jaw tighten the way it used to when she was 14 and caught doing something wrong. That small movement told me everything. She already knew what was coming. "I'm not starting," I said. I'm finishing the part where I keep pretending I don't see what's happening." Ryan stood. He wasn't tall, but he carried himself like every room owed him respect. He walked closer, stopping just far enough away to feel safe. "You want the truth," he said. "Fine, the truth is you're difficult." Melissa flinched. Ryan noticed and pushed harder. "You don't understand how the world works now. Everything is online, everything is fast, you're always in the way, and you're always acting like you're the victim." I felt heat rise behind my eyes, not tears, anger, the kind that comes when someone takes your kindness and calls it weakness. "I let you live here," I said quietly. "I paid the mortgage, I paid for your phone bill when you forgot. I paid for Melissa's car repairs because you said you'd handle it and didn't. I've been—" Ryan cut me off with a laugh. "There it is. The guilt speech." Then he took a step forward and said the sentence that changed my life. "Go to your room, old man. This living room is mine now." Time slowed. Even the fridge hum sounded louder. Melissa finally looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that hurt worse than Ryan's disrespect. Relief, like she wished I would just disappear so she wouldn't have to choose. I stared at them both. I had raised Melissa alone after her mother passed. I had taught her to drive in this neighborhood. I had coached her through college when she wanted to quit. I had been the dependable line she called when her world shook. Now she was standing there, letting my grandson exile me from my own home. I nodded once, not because I agreed, because I understood. "Okay," I said. Ryan blinked, surprised I didn't fight. He expected yelling, begging. Drama he could film in his mind and replay as proof I was the problem. Instead, I walked to the hallway closet, pulled out my old canvas duffel bag, and started packing without a word. Melissa's voice cracked. "Dad, where are you going?" I didn't answer. Ryan crossed his arms. "You're being dramatic." Still, I packed my coat, my wallet, my watch. A framed photo of Melissa at 8 years old, grinning with missing teeth. I hesitated, then tucked it in too. You don't throw away the past just because the present is ugly. At the front door, I paused and faced them. "I'm not dramatic," I said. "I'm done." I stepped out into the cold. The porch light flickered. The camera above the door glowed red, recording me leaving like evidence in a case. I walked to my truck. The old Ford started on the first turn like it still believed in me. I drove with no plan, just a direction, away. 30 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of a small motel off Route 19. The kind with neon signs and the smell of bleach. I sat in the truck for a long time, hands on the wheel, staring at the rain streaking my windshield. My phone buzzed once. A text from Ryan: "Don't come back until you can respect boundaries." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years. Evelyn Ross, attorney. I stared at it. My thumb hovered. My heart pounded like it used to before a big job, when I knew one wrong move could burn the whole system down. Then I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. "Walter," she said, surprised. "Is everything all right?" I watched the motel sign blink and buzz like a warning. "No," I said calmly. "But it's about to be." Evelyn Ross didn't sound like she was guessing when she spoke. She sounded like she was opening a drawer she already knew was there. "Tell me what happened," she said. I told her everything: Ryan's words, Melissa's silence, the way my own house suddenly felt like a stage I wasn't allowed to stand on. When I finished, the line stayed quiet for a moment. Then Evelyn sighed. "Walter, I'm sorry. But I'm not surprised. I should have seen it coming," I admitted. "I kept thinking if I stayed kind, it would soften them." "Kindness doesn't soften entitlement," she said. "It feeds it." I stared out at the wet parking lot, at the way the world looked washed out under the street lamp. "What can I do?" "You remember the documents we prepared after your heart scare?" she asked. I swallowed. "The estate plan." "Yes," she said, "and the property structure." I leaned back in my seat. That was the part Ryan never knew, the part Melissa never asked about because she preferred not to know things that might force her to act. Years ago, after my doctor told me my blood pressure was climbing into danger, Evelyn made me plan like a man who understood time. I didn't put the house in Melissa's name. I didn't put it in Ryan's name. I put it in something safer, a trust, a living trust designed to keep my home from becoming a family battlefield the minute I was gone. Evelyn's voice got sharper, professional. "Walter, the house is still yours. Legally, you control it through the trust, but you have to be careful. If you let them push you out long enough, they can start building a narrative of abandonment." My jaw clenched. "So the camera, the lock changes." "Exactly," she said. "Those aren't random, those are steps." I felt my stomach tighten. Ryan wasn't just rude, he was strategic. Evelyn continued, "The question is, do you want to fight for the house? Or do you want to teach them something they'll never forget?" I pictured Ryan sitting on my couch, calling me old man like it was my title instead of my history. I pictured Melissa's eyes, how she looked at me like a problem to manage. I didn't want a screaming match in court. I didn't want cops at my door. I wanted something cleaner, something final. "I want them to understand," I said. "I want them to feel what I felt, but I don't want to destroy my daughter." Evelyn's tone softened just a little. "Then we don't destroy her, we wake her up." "How?" "We use paperwork," she said. "The kind of revenge that looks like normal life until it's too late." The word revenge didn't sound evil coming from her. It sounded like a tool, like a wrench. She asked me where I was staying. When I told her, she said, "Good. Stay away tonight, let them get comfortable." "Comfortable," I repeated. "Yes," she said. "Let them believe you're gone." People reveal their real plans when they think the obstacle has moved. My throat went dry. What if they change everything? What if they lock me out for real? Evelyn's voice turned into steel again. "They can't lock you out of a trust you control, but we need proof of what they're doing. We need dates, behavior, messages." I looked at Ryan's text again. "Respect boundaries." The audacity of it almost made me laugh. "Okay," I said. "Tomorrow," Evelyn continued, "come to my office. Bring any important items you left behind if you can safely retrieve them. If you can't, don't risk it yet. We'll handle it the right way." I hesitated. "Evelyn, I don't want to look like I'm punishing them for being harsh." "You're not punishing them," she said. "You're reclaiming what's yours." "There's a difference." I sat with that, reclaiming. After we hung up, I walked into the motel room and sat on the edge of the bed. The room smelled like cheap soap and loneliness. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the distant sound of cars passing, everyone rushing towards something. My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Melissa. "Dad, please come home." Ryan didn't mean it. You know how he gets when he's stressed. I read it twice. Not "I'm sorry," not "I stopped him," not "please forgive me." Just excuses wrapped in guilt like a ribbon. I typed slowly, "I'm safe. I'll talk tomorrow." Then I turned my phone face down. That night I barely slept. My mind ran through memories like an old film. Melissa learning to ride a bike. Ryan as a kid asking me to teach him how to throw a baseball. The way my wife used to squeeze my hand when she could tell I was about to lose my temper. Around 3 a.m., I got up and sat by the window, watching rain paint the glass. And that's when it hit me. If Ryan thought he could exile me, he was going to do more than take my living room. He was going to take my life apart and call it modern. I looked down at my hands, hands that had wired schools, hospitals, and homes, hands that had held my daughter when she was scared. I didn't want vengeance that screamed. I wanted vengeance that whispered and still won. The next morning, I drove to my house just after sunrise, not because I wanted to beg, because I wanted to see what they did when they thought I was gone. The neighborhood looked the same, trimmed lawns, holiday wreaths starting to appear, the quiet rhythm of American weekends. But my chest felt tight as I turned onto my street. When I pulled into the driveway, I didn't see Melissa's car. I saw Ryan's and two other cars I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. I parked on the curb and walked toward the front door like a man visiting his own memory. My boots made a soft sound on the concrete. I looked up at the Ring camera. It stared back. I reached for the doorknob. It didn't turn. I tried again, slower, like maybe the lock just stuck. Nothing. I stepped back, pulled out my key, and slid it into the lock. It didn't fit. My breath caught. They changed it, just like Evelyn warned. I stood there, holding my useless key, feeling something cold spread through my ribs. It wasn't fear, it was clarity. From inside, I heard laughter, music, the sound of a blender. Like they were hosting brunch, like my absence was a celebration. I forced my voice steady and knocked, 3 firm knocks, the way my father used to knock when he meant business. The music lowered, footsteps approached. The door opened halfway, held by a chain. Ryan's face appeared, freshly shaved, wearing a sweatshirt that used to be mine. His smile was lazy. "Oh, you're back. I live here," I said, calm. Ryan looked down at my duffel bag, then back up. Not anymore. Behind him, I saw people at my kitchen island, 2 guys in ball caps and a woman scrolling her phone. I saw boxes on the floor open with my things inside. My throat tightened. "Where's Melissa?" I asked. Ryan leaned on the door like it was his right. "Out, running errands. She told me not to let you in because you'll just start stuff." There it was, my daughter signing away her backbone. I nodded once, slow. "You changed the locks," Ryan shrugged. "Boundaries." I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because it confirmed everything. I pulled my phone out and held it up so he could see I was recording. Ryan's smile vanished. "What are you doing?" "Documenting," I said. "You said boundaries matter, so do records." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Turn that off." "No," I said. "Say it again. Tell me I don't live here." Ryan's jaw flexed. He glanced behind him, suddenly aware of his audience. He lowered his voice. "Grandpa, you're embarrassing yourself." "No," I corrected, still calm. "You're embarrassing yourself. I'm just giving you a mirror." Ryan's face hardened. "Fine. You want the truth. You're a liability. You're old. You can't keep up. You forget things. You can't even handle your own mail without panicking." My stomach twisted because he was picking points he'd tested before, little comments meant to make me doubt myself. "And the house," he continued, "needs to be in the hands of someone who can manage it, someone who can modernize, sell if needed, use it as an asset." I kept my expression blank, but inside something clicked into place. Sell if needed. That was the plan. He wasn't just pushing me out, he was clearing the runway. "Open the door," I said quietly. Ryan laughed once. "Or what?" I let the silence stretch. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam the door. I didn't threaten him. Because that's what men like Ryan want. A reaction. Instead, I said, "Or you'll regret the way you treated your family, in a way you can't reverse." Ryan's eyes flickered just for a second. Then he recovered and smirked. "Okay, old man." Dramatic again. He closed the door until the chain rattled tight. I walked back down the steps slowly, as if leaving by choice. Then I got into my truck and drove straight to Evelyn's office. Evelyn didn't flinch when she saw my face. She'd seen enough people walk in with betrayal on their skin to recognize it. "They changed the locks," I said. She nodded like she expected it. "Any proof?" I slid my phone across her desk. "Video." "And I have his texts." Evelyn watched part of the recording, pausing at Ryan's words about selling the house. Her eyes sharpened. "Good," she said. "That's what we needed." I stared at her. "What happens now?" Evelyn leaned back, folding her hands. "Now we stop playing defense." She pulled out a thick folder, my folder, and opened it like a surgeon preparing for work. "Walter, your trust gives you control," she said. "But control without action is just paper. We're going to take action." My throat felt dry. "Eviction, not immediately," she said. "We do this clean, legally, strategically. We don't give them a storyline where you're the villain." She slid a document toward me. "This is a notice of trespass and demand for return of property. It's step 1. It's not a dramatic scene. It's a formal record." I read it slowly. My name looked strange on paper next to words like unauthorized occupancy. "I never wanted it to come to this," I said. Evelyn's voice softened. "You didn't bring it here." "They did." Then she reached into the folder and pulled out something else, a sealed envelope with my handwriting on it. I froze. "That's, yes," she said, "the secondary document you wrote 2 years ago. The one you told me to keep sealed unless you specifically asked for it." I swallowed hard. I remembered writing it, late at night after Ryan screamed at Melissa in the driveway, when I realized the boy had a darkness in him that charm couldn't hide. "What does it say?" Evelyn asked, watching me carefully. I stared at the envelope like it could bite. It's my final move, I said. Evelyn nodded. Then let's make sure it lands the way you intended. She stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city like she was calculating angles. Here's what we're going to do, she said. Today, we file for an emergency order to access your home, not to fight them physically, just to legally enter and secure your belongings. We also notify the bank and county office that any attempt to transfer, sell, or refinance the property is unauthorized. My pulse quickened. And then, she continued, we invite Melissa to my office, not with a threat. With a choice, I repeated. Evelyn turned back. Yes, we tell her the truth, we show her the trust, we show her Ryan's recorded intention to sell, and we show her what happens if she continues to stand behind him. My chest tightened. She'll hate me, Evelyn's gaze didn't soften, or she'll finally wake up. Either way, she won't be able to pretend anymore. I sat back, letting it sink in. I had spent years trying to keep the peace. But peace built on disrespect isn't peace, it's surrender. Evelyn pushed a pen toward me. Sign, and Walter, one more thing. I looked up. From this moment on, she said, you do not speak to Ryan alone. He will twist words. He will bait you, he will try to make you look unstable. I nodded. And you? She asked. I picked up the pen, the weight of it surprising in my hand. I'm done being the quiet man in the corner, I said. I'm going to be the man who owns the room again. Evelyn's expression turned satisfied, not happy, not cruel, just resolved. Good, she said, because the next time they see you, she tapped the sealed envelope lightly with one finger. They'll realize the old man they kicked out was the only reason they ever had a home. By noon, Evelyn had moved faster than I thought possible. In America, people assume the system only works for the loud and wealthy. Evelyn proved something different. The system works for the prepared. She had me sit in her conference room while she made calls, short, clean sentences, no emotions in her voice. At one point, she slid a paper toward me. Emergency access order, she said. Temporary, limited, but it's enough to get you inside your own home with law enforcement present. I stared at the header, the seal, my name typed in black. Something in my chest loosened. Does it feel strange? Evelyn asked. Yes, I admitted, like I'm breaking into my own life. You're not breaking in, she said. You're stepping back into what you never stopped owning. 2 hours later, I followed a sheriff's vehicle down my street. I never imagined I'd see a uniform involved in my family business, but that's what happens when your own blood decides rules don't apply to them. The sheriff parked behind my truck. He was middle-aged, calm, and polite. The kind of man who'd seen every version of family dispute and learned not to be impressed by acting. You Mr. Grayson? He asked. That's me. He read the order, nodded, and stepped toward my front door like it was routine. My porch camera blinked red. The sheriff rang the bell. Inside, footsteps. Then the chain slid. The door opened a few inches. Ryan's face appeared annoyed, confident, like he was expecting delivery, not consequences. What's this? Ryan asked, eyes narrowing. Sheriff's office, the deputy said. We have an order for Mr. Grayson to access his property. Ryan's eyes darted to me behind the sheriff, and for the first time since he'd said, this living room is mine now, I saw something small crack in his expression. He tried to laugh. This is ridiculous. He left. He didn't leave legally, the sheriff replied. Sir, step back and remove the chain. Ryan's jaw tightened. I want to talk to my lawyer. You can, the sheriff said. After you comply, the chain came off, the door opened wider, and there it was, my house, but altered, not redecorated, reclaimed. My photos had been moved. My wife's framed picture, Clara, was gone from the mantel. A new painting hung where it used to be, some abstract thing that looked like money pretending to be art. Boxes lined the hallway. Some of them were labeled in thick black marker. Grandpa stuff. I felt my throat tighten, but I forced my face still. Ryan wanted to see me flinch. He wanted the satisfaction of my pain. I didn't give it to him. The sheriff turned to me. You can retrieve essential belongings and review the premises. Keep it civil. Ryan stood off to the side like a kid caught cheating. His friends were there too, 2 guys and the same woman from earlier. They watched like it was entertainment. I walked straight to the living room and looked at the couch. The couch my wife and I bought when Melissa was in high school. Ryan sat there like he'd earned it. You can't do this, he muttered. Melissa said. Melissa doesn't own the house, I said, calm. That sentence hit the room like a dropped plate. Ryan blinked. What? Evelyn's words echoed in my head. Control without action is just paper. Today the paper spoke. The house is not in your name, I continued. It's not in Melissa's either. Ryan's confidence shifted into anger. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. You're lying. I stared at him, then nodded toward the sheriff. Ask him if he thinks the court order is fake. Ryan's nostrils flared. His friends grew quiet. I walked down the hallway and saw something worse than the boxes. My office door was open, my filing cabinet open. Drawers pulled out like ribs. I stepped inside and felt my skin go cold. Someone had been searching. I opened the cabinet and saw the folder that held property paperwork gone. My hands clenched. Ryan had been looking for the documents that could let him sell what wasn't his. I heard the sheriff's voice behind me. Everything all right? I turned slowly. No. I walked back into the living room and met Ryan's eyes. Where's my property folder? Ryan lifted his chin. I don't know what you're talking about. I nodded once. That's fine. Then I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Sheriff, I believe there are missing legal documents from my home. I want it noted. Ryan's face changed instantly. His friends shifted, uncomfortable. Nobody likes being around when consequences show up. The sheriff's tone went from polite to firm. Sir, if documents are missing, that becomes a separate issue. Ryan snapped. This is a setup. I kept my voice even. No, this is you getting exposed. In the middle of it all, my phone buzzed. Melissa. I didn't answer, not yet. Instead, I walked to the kitchen and saw my mail on the counter opened. My bank envelope sliced, contents gone. Evelyn had warned me about narratives. Ryan wasn't building a narrative. He was building a case against me. I took a slow breath and did something I never thought I'd do. I smiled, small, controlled, because now I understood the full game, and now I could end it. Evelyn asked me not to talk to Ryan alone, but she never said I couldn't talk to Melissa, with witnesses and facts. I stepped outside away from the house and called her back. She answered fast, breathy. Dad, where are you? I'm at the house, I said. Silence. Then what do you mean you're at the house? With a sheriff, I replied, calm. Because Ryan changed the locks, her voice snapped. He said you left. He said you didn't want Melissa. I cut in gently. Listen to your own words. He said, when did my home become something you hear about from him? Her breathing changed. It sounded like fear trying to hide behind irritation. Dad, please, she whispered. Don't do this. People will think. I don't care what people think, I said. I care what's true. I paused, then delivered the truth she never wanted to face. Ryan is looking for my property papers. My mail is opened. My documents are missing. No, she said quickly, too quickly. He wouldn't come home, I told her. Right now, Evelyn is here. We're going to talk like adults. I heard her swallow. Evelyn, why is Evelyn involved? Because you let a boy with a talent for excuses move into a home he doesn't own, I said. And now he's acting like he bought it. Melissa's voice trembled. Dad, I'm trying to keep peace. There is no peace, I said softly. There's only you avoiding conflict while he takes ground. Minutes later, Melissa pulled into the driveway, eyes wide, hair messy like she'd been running from her own reality. She saw the sheriff, she saw my truck, she saw Ryan on the porch pretending to be calm while his hands shook. Her mouth opened like she was going to scold me, then she saw the boxes. Grandpa stuff, her face went pale. Ryan, she whispered, stepping toward him. What is this? Ryan forced a laugh. Babe, it's nothing, I was organizing, he's overreacting. Melissa turned to me, eyes wet. Dad, I didn't soften, not yet. Softness was how we got here. Tell her the truth, I said to Ryan. Tell her why the lock changed. Ryan's voice sharpened. Because you're unstable, you stormed out, and I didn't storm, I corrected. I left quietly. You changed the locks to make it look like I abandoned my home. Melissa's eyes darted between us. Ryan, did you change the locks? Ryan hesitated, just a beat too long. That beat was everything. Melissa's shoulders sagged. Why? Ryan's mask slipped. Because he's in the way, because we need space. Because you promised me we'd build a life and he's still here like some. He stopped himself, but it was too late. The cruelty had already shown. Melissa's eyes filled, like somewhat. Ryan threw his hands up. Like a responsibility we didn't ask for. The words hit my daughter like a slap. She looked at me then, and in her face I saw the child she used to be, the one who believed adults were supposed to protect you. And the adult she'd become, the one who married a man-child and let him set the rules. Evelyn stepped forward, calm as winter. Melissa, you need to understand something important. The house is owned through a trust. Your father is the trustee. Ryan has no legal authority here. Melissa blinked. A trust, I nodded. I did it so nobody could manipulate you after I'm gone. Ryan's expression twisted. So you hid it, you're controlling. Evelyn didn't even look at him. Ryan, your opinion isn't relevant. Melissa stumbled back like the ground moved. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because I knew this day would come, I said quietly. And I needed you to show me who you'd become before I decided what happens next. Her eyes widened. Decided. I reached into my duffel bag and pulled out the sealed envelope Evelyn had shown me. My handwriting stared back at us. Melissa's voice cracked. What is that? I held it up. My final move. Ryan's face went sharp with panic. Don't. Melissa looked at Ryan, then at me, then back again. And in that moment, she finally understood something she'd avoided for years. This wasn't about hurt feelings. This was about control, and Ryan was losing it. Evelyn suggested we move the conversation off the porch and into her office, but Melissa insisted we talk right there in the living room, like facing the scene would force honesty. Ryan didn't want that, I could tell. People like Ryan thrive when they can control angles, what you see, what you don't, who hears what. But today the room was full of witnesses. Me, Melissa, the sheriff nearby, Evelyn with her file folder like a sword made of paper. Melissa wiped her face. Ryan, tell me what you've been doing. Ryan's voice went smooth. I've been trying to protect us. Your dad is— Stop, Melissa said, louder than I'd heard her in years. Stop talking about him like he's the enemy. That snapped something in Ryan. His smile returned, but it was colder now. Fine, he said, you want the truth. We're drowning, Melissa blinked. What? Ryan turned toward her like he was offering a confession, but his eyes kept flicking to me, like he wanted me to feel guilty for his mess. My investments went south, he said. The market flipped. It happens, but I was going to fix it. Evelyn's eyebrows lifted slightly. By selling property that isn't yours, Ryan snapped. I didn't sell anything. I spoke calmly. Then why are my documents missing? Ryan's jaw clenched. He looked at Melissa. Because your dad hides things, I needed to know what we had. What we had, Melissa repeated, stunned. Ryan, what we had, this is my father's home. Ryan's voice rose. And you're his daughter. Which means eventually it's yours, unless he pulls some controlling stunt like this trust thing. I care what's true. I paused, then delivered the truth she never wanted to face. Ryan is looking for my property papers. My mail is opened. My documents are missing. No, she said quickly, too quickly. He wouldn't come home, I told her. Right now, Evelyn is here. We're going to talk like adults. I heard her swallow. Evelyn, why is Evelyn involved? Because you let a boy with a talent for excuses move into a home he doesn't own, I said. And now he's acting like he bought it. Melissa's voice trembled. Dad, I'm trying to keep peace. There is no peace, I said softly. There's only you avoiding conflict while he takes ground. Minutes later, Melissa pulled into the driveway, eyes wide, hair messy like she'd been running from her own reality. She saw the sheriff, she saw my truck, she saw Ryan on the porch pretending to be calm while his hands shook. Her mouth opened like she was going to scold me, then she saw the boxes. Grandpa's stuff, her face went pale. Ryan, she whispered, stepping toward him. What is this? Ryan forced a laugh. Babe, it's nothing. I was organizing. He's overreacting. Melissa turned to me, eyes wet. Dad, I didn't soften. Not yet. Softness was how we got here. Tell her the truth, I said to Ryan. Tell her why the lock changed. Ryan's voice sharpened. Because you're unstable, you stormed out, and I didn't storm, I corrected. I left quietly. You changed the locks to make it look like I abandoned my home. Melissa's eyes darted between us. Ryan, did you change the locks? Ryan hesitated, just a beat too long. That beat was everything. Melissa's shoulders sagged. Why? Ryan's mask slipped. Because he's in the way, because we need space. Because you promised me we'd build a life and he's still here like some. He stopped himself, but it was too late. The cruelty had already shown. Melissa's eyes filled, like somewhat. Ryan threw his hands up. Like a responsibility we didn't ask for. The words hit my daughter like a slap. She looked at me then, and in her face I saw the child she used to be, the one who believed adults were supposed to protect you. And the adult she'd become, the one who married a man-child and let him set the rules. Evelyn stepped forward, calm as winter. Melissa, you need to understand something important. The house is owned through a trust. Your father is the trustee. Ryan has no legal authority here. Melissa blinked. A trust, I nodded. I did it so nobody could manipulate you after I'm gone. Ryan's expression twisted. So you hid it, you're controlling. Evelyn didn't even look at him. Ryan, your opinion isn't relevant. Melissa stumbled back like the ground moved. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because I knew this day would come, I said quietly. And I needed you to show me who you'd become before I decided what happens next. Her eyes widened. Decided. I reached into my duffel bag and pulled out the sealed envelope Evelyn had shown me. My handwriting stared back at us. Melissa's voice cracked. What is that? I held it up. My final move. Ryan's face went sharp with panic. Don't. Melissa looked at Ryan, then at me, then back again. And in that moment, she finally understood something she'd avoided for years. This wasn't about hurt feelings. This was about control, and Ryan was losing it. Evelyn suggested we move the conversation off the porch and into her office, but Melissa insisted we talk right there in the living room, like facing the scene would force honesty. Ryan didn't want that, I could tell. People like Ryan thrive when they can control angles, what you see, what you don't, who hears what. But today the room was full of witnesses. Me, Melissa, the sheriff nearby, Evelyn with her file folder like a sword made of paper. Melissa wiped her face. Ryan, tell me what you've been doing. Ryan's voice went smooth. I've been trying to protect us. Your dad is— Stop, Melissa said, louder than I'd heard her in years. Stop talking about him like he's the enemy. That snapped something in Ryan. His smile returned, but it was colder now. Fine, he said, you want the truth. We're drowning, Melissa blinked. What? Ryan turned toward her like he was offering a confession, but his eyes kept flicking to me, like he wanted me to feel guilty for his mess. My investments went south, he said. The market flipped. It happens, but I was going to fix it. Evelyn's eyebrows lifted slightly. By selling property that isn't yours, Ryan snapped. I didn't sell anything. I spoke calmly. Then why are my documents missing? Ryan's jaw clenched. He looked at Melissa. Because your dad hides things, I needed to know what we had. What we had, Melissa repeated, stunned. Ryan, what we had, this is my father's home. Ryan's voice rose. And you're his daughter. Which means eventually it's yours, unless he pulls some controlling stunt like this trust thing. Melissa stared at him like she was meeting him for the first time. Evelyn opened her folder and placed printed pages on the coffee table. Melissa, we also found evidence that Ryan contacted a realtor. Melissa's head snapped up. You did what? Ryan's face flushed. It was a consultation. Evelyn tapped another page. And a loan officer. Melissa's hands shook. Ryan, why? He exploded then, because the truth had cornered him. Because we need money, he shouted. Because your dad sits on a house like it's a museum while we're trying to build a future. Melissa cried out, a future built on stealing. Ryan's eyes flashed. It's not stealing if it's family. That sentence made the room go quiet. Because that's the lie entitlement lives on. If you're related, you're owed. Evelyn leaned forward. Melissa, there's more. She slid over a final document. Power of attorney forms, unsigned. Melissa frowned. Why do you have those? Ryan's face went still. Evelyn's tone stayed careful. We didn't find them in your father's files. We found them in the trash, half shredded. Melissa looked at Ryan slowly. You were going to make Dad sign these. Ryan didn't answer. Melissa whispered, horrified, you were going to take his legal control. I watched my daughter's face collapse under the weight of reality. That was the twist she never expected. Ryan wasn't just rude. He was ready to erase me on paper. I spoke softly. Melissa, he wasn't trying to remove me from the living room. He was trying to remove me from my own identity. Melissa turned to Ryan, shaking. How much debt? Ryan's voice came out quieter now, like the truth hurt his pride. A lot. How much? She demanded. Ryan swallowed. 6 figures. Melissa's knees nearly buckled. Oh my God. She looked at me then, tears spilling. Dad, I didn't know. I didn't comfort her yet, because comfort without change is just another kind of permission. I held up the sealed envelope again. Melissa's voice was small. Please, don't do something you'll regret. I met her eyes. I wrote this for a reason. Then I placed the envelope on the table between us, and I said the line that made Ryan's face turn white. This envelope decides who gets what and who gets nothing. Evelyn told me once that paper can be heavier than stone. I understood what she meant the moment I slid my finger under the flap. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Ryan's eyes locked on the envelope. His body was tense, like he was ready to snatch it off the table if he could. Melissa sat on the couch, hands clasped, trembling like she was praying without words. I opened the letter, not fast, not dramatic, just steady, like a man flipping a breaker he wired himself. I unfolded the page and read it out loud, because secrecy is how manipulation survives. To my daughter, Melissa. Melissa flinched at her own name, like it was a bell. If you are hearing this, it means you allowed someone to disrespect me in my own home. Her lips parted, tears rolled down silently. Ryan's jaw tightened. I continued. I want you to know I love you, I always have. But love does not mean surrender. Evelyn watched carefully, making sure my voice stayed clear, my words steady. She knew Ryan would try to paint me as unstable if I cracked. This home is held in trust. You will inherit it only under one condition. I read. Ryan leaned forward. Melissa whispered, Dad, you must remove Ryan Grayson from the property and from any financial control over your life. If you do not, the home will not pass to you. It will be donated to the Veterans Housing Foundation I have supported for years. The silence that followed was different from any silence I'd heard. It wasn't awkward, it was lethal. Ryan's face twisted. You can't. Evelyn spoke for the first time in a while. He can, and he did. Melissa stared at me like she was trying to figure out if she should be angry or grateful. I kept reading. Melissa, this is not punishment. This is protection, because the man you chose will drain you until you forget who you are, and he will do it while smiling. Melissa let out a sound, half sob, half shock. Ryan stood up suddenly, voice rising. This is emotional blackmail. I looked up from the letter. No, this is the first boundary you couldn't break. Ryan pointed at me, shaking. You planned this. You wanted to control her. Evelyn's voice cut through like a judge. Ryan, you tried to change locks, remove him, search his files, and position a sale. Don't talk about control. Ryan turned to Melissa, desperation slipping into his tone. Babe, you're not going to let him do this. Tell him to stop. Melissa looked at Ryan and something in her eyes changed. It wasn't anger, it was recognition, like she finally saw the pattern. Every crisis ended with Ryan demanding someone else save him. She stood slowly. Ryan, did you ever plan to tell me about the debt? Ryan stammered. I was going to fix it. And if you couldn't, she asked, voice breaking. You were going to sell my dad's house. Ryan snapped. It's a house. Melissa shook her head. No, it's my father's life. It's my childhood. It's my mother's memory. Ryan's face hardened, and for a second I thought he'd try something reckless. But the sheriff was still there, watching. Ryan's voice dropped into a hiss. You're choosing him over me. Melissa swallowed. You made it a choice. Ryan looked at me then with pure hatred. You ruined everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't celebrate. I just said, no, Ryan, you revealed everything. Melissa turned back to Evelyn, shaking but standing. What do I need to do? Evelyn's tone stayed calm. We can file an immediate notice to remove him from the property, and we can help you separate finances. Melissa nodded, tears falling. Do it. Ryan's eyes widened, stunned. Melissa, she held up a hand. Stop. Just stop. Then she looked at me and her voice came out like a confession. Dad, I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I felt the sting behind my eyes, not tears yet, just the pressure of years. I nodded once. Now you are. Ryan stood there, breathing hard, cornered by a room full of truth. And when he finally backed toward the door, the sheriff stepping closer, Ryan threw one last line like a knife. This isn't over. Evelyn's eyes didn't blink. Actually, Ryan, it is. The only question is how peaceful you want it to be. Ryan walked out, the door shut, and for the first time in a long time, my house felt quiet in a way that didn't hurt. But I didn't relax yet, because I knew men like Ryan don't disappear when they lose. They strike back. And somewhere in my mind, the blinking red porch camera felt less like a device and more like a warning that the next move had already started. Sunday evening, December 21, the neighborhood looked like a postcard. Warm Christmas lights on porches, cars sliding past with gifts in the backseat, families laughing behind windows like the world was simple. Inside my house, the silence felt new, not empty, clean. Like a room after a storm where you can finally hear your own breathing. Melissa sat at the kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a mug, staring at the steam like it could explain how her life got here. Dad, she whispered, I messed up. I watched her carefully. My daughter wasn't a bad person. She was just exhausted by years of smoothing over Ryan's sharp edges, exhausted by avoiding the truth because facing it would mean choosing. You did mess up, I said gently, but you can fix it only if you stop running from facts. She nodded, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. That's when the knock came. Not a neighbor knock, not a delivery knock. A knock with authority behind it, like a hand that didn't ask permission. Melissa stiffened. Who's that? The Ring camera blinked red above the door. I stepped onto the porch and opened it. 2 police officers stood there, 1 man, 1 woman. The woman held a clipboard. The man wore that calm, blank expression officers use when they're trying to keep emotions out of a situation. Mr. Walter Grayson, the man asked. That's me. We received a call, the woman said. A welfare check. Melissa appeared behind me in the hallway, her face draining of color. The male officer continued. We were told there may be an elderly resident being threatened, possibly financially exploited, and possibly being forced out of the home. My stomach went cold. Not because I didn't understand, because I understood perfectly. Ryan, he couldn't win in the living room, so he tried to win in the system. He'd pulled the oldest trick in the book, flip the roles, make the victim look unstable. Make the controlling person look like the savior. Melissa's voice trembled. Who called? We can't share that, the woman officer said, but we need to ensure Mr. Grayson is safe. I opened the door wider. You can come in. But understand, I have legal paperwork. This home is held in trust, and my attorney is involved. The officers exchanged a quick glance, just a flicker of surprise that I wasn't confused or panicked. They stepped inside. The male officer asked the question that mattered. Sir, are you safe in this home? Is anyone threatening you right now? I'm safe, I said clearly. No one here is threatening me. Earlier today, a family member changed the locks and attempted to keep me out of my own home. A sheriff assisted me in accessing my property under an emergency order. Melissa swallowed hard and spoke up, voice shaking but honest. Officers, my husband tried to push my dad out. He's in debt. He tried to take control of the house. The woman officer looked down at her clipboard. Ma'am, you understand false reports are serious. I'm not lying, Melissa said. Tears slid down her cheeks. I'm finally telling the truth. I went to the drawer and pulled out Evelyn's folder. The emergency order, the trust summary, drafts of notices, screenshots of Ryan's texts. I set them on the table like cards in a game I didn't want to play but was ready to win. The male officer read quietly, then nodded. Okay, this changes the context. My phone buzzed. Evelyn, I answered on speaker. Evelyn, police are here for a welfare check. Her voice was steady. Mr. Grayson is safe. This appears retaliatory. Officers, I can confirm the emergency order and provide case reference details. The woman officer thanked her and asked a few routine questions. My health, my medications, whether I managed my finances. I answered calmly, facts only, no anger. Finally, the male officer closed his notebook. Sir, we don't see an immediate safety concern. If harassment continues, you can file a report. I intend to, I said. When they left, Melissa sat down hard in a chair, covering her mouth like she might break apart. He tried to make you look weak, she whispered. So you'd lose control. I looked at the red ring light blinking on the porch. Now he made a mistake, I said quietly, because everything is in the record. Melissa looked up. What happens now? I slid the folder closer. Now we make the truth stronger than his story. And deep down, I knew it. Ryan's next move wouldn't be emotional. It would be legal. Monday morning, December 22, Evelyn's office smelled like coffee and printer toner. The kind of place where feelings don't matter unless they can be proven. Evelyn laid a fresh packet on the conference table and looked at me with something close to anger, though she kept it controlled. Walter, she said, Ryan filed a petition. A petition for what? I asked. She said one word and it felt like my blood pressure rose in an instant. Conservatorship. Melissa's hands flew to her mouth. No, Evelyn nodded. He's attempting to claim you're not competent to manage your own affairs. If he succeeds, he could request authority over your finances and decisions. He could slow or block trust actions. He could turn me into paperwork, I finished, my voice low. Evelyn's eyes didn't blink. Exactly, he's using last night's welfare check as support for concern. I stared down at the petition. Ryan had written me like a problem. Confused, agitated, unpredictable, easily manipulated. It was the cruelest thing of all, trying to steal my dignity by stealing my credibility. That's insane, Melissa whispered. It's strategic, Evelyn corrected. Insane would be yelling at him. Strategic is what he's doing because he believes you'll panic. I took a slow breath. So what do? Evelyn slid a checklist toward me. We respond with proof, not emotion. 3 things. A medical capacity letter, financial competence documentation, and character statements from credible people who can confirm you manage your affairs. Melissa looked up, eyes watery but focused. I'll do a statement. Evelyn held her gaze. Not I think, not I feel. Facts, dates, actions you personally witnessed. Melissa nodded. I can do that. We went to my doctor that afternoon. He asked me simple questions, checked my record, had me explain my medications and routines. Then he typed a letter and signed it. Mr. Grayson is cognitively capable and competent to manage his personal and financial affairs. The bank printed statements verifying I had managed my accounts for years without irregularities. My union buddy wrote a letter about job sites and how I'd always been organized, sharp, dependable. Even my old neighbor wrote one about how I handled repairs and bills like clockwork. Evelyn stacked it all into a response packet like armor, but Ryan wasn't done. That evening, Melissa got a call from an unknown number. She put it on speaker. Ryan's voice came out soft, almost tender, like he'd practiced it. Babe, they're poisoning you against me. Melissa's throat tightened. You tried to take my dad's rights. I was trying to protect you, Ryan said. Your dad is being manipulated by that lawyer. I watched Melissa's face, old guilt fighting new clarity. Ryan sighed dramatically. Tell your dad to stop, drop the paperwork, or I'll expose things. Melissa froze. Expose what? Ryan's voice sharpened. You don't want to find out, just fix this. The line went dead. Melissa stared at the phone like it was a snake. Evelyn didn't react emotionally. She just said, write down exactly what he said, time, number, every word. Melissa's hand shook as she wrote, but she wrote, because the truth is, Ryan's power was never love, it was fear. And once fear gets documented, it starts to lose. 2 days before Christmas, Evelyn said something that lit up the engineer in my mind. Walter, she told me, you've spent your life understanding systems. Ryan is using systems against you. We use systems back legally. How? I asked. She tapped the table. The lock change, the missing documents, the opened mail, the realtor contact, and your cameras. I blinked. Cameras, then it hit me. The small motion camera I installed in my home office 2 years earlier, after a string of break-ins in the area. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't connected to the internet. It was just a basic device that saved footage to a USB drive. I hadn't thought about it in months. I drove home that night and went straight to the garage. In an old metal lockbox, I kept backups, copies, receipts, small things I'd learned never to trust anyone else with. I found the USB, I plugged it into my laptop. A folder opened, office camera archive. My heart thudded as I clicked, the footage loaded, and there he was, Ryan, in my office. Pulling open my filing cabinet drawers like he owned them, flipping through folders, stacking papers, opening my mail. Then he paused, reading something, then slipped it into his pocket. Another envelope, another paper. He wasn't organizing, he was hunting. And then I saw the moment that made my skin go cold. Ryan found a sheet with the word trust on it. He stared at it like it was a treasure map. Then he smiled, and he took it. I paused the video and just sat there, staring at my own screen like it was showing me a stranger. The cruelty wasn't in the theft, it was in the confidence. The confidence of a man who thought no one would ever catch him. I called Evelyn immediately and sent the footage. When she watched it, she said one sentence, quiet and deadly, "That's not family drama anymore, that's evidence." The next morning we filed a report for missing documents and mail tampering. Evelyn kept it factual, professional, tight, the kind of report that makes a liar sweat. That night Ryan texted me from a number I didn't recognize. "Drop it, I can make this ugly." For the first time I replied, "It's already ugly." I'm just letting the world see it. Christmas Eve morning, December 24, the house felt different, not because everything was fixed, but because nothing was being hidden anymore. Evelyn finalized the next legal steps. Formal removal notice, a no-contact boundary through counsel, and immediate financial separation help for Melissa. The conservatorship petition was challenged with the doctor's letter, bank records, and the office camera footage. The system Ryan tried to use against me now worked the way it was supposed to. It followed proof. Melissa moved like someone learning how to live without fear, guiding her decisions. She was quiet, but there was something stronger under the quiet now, a spine. In the afternoon, she picked up my wife Clara's framed photo, one Ryan had removed, and placed it back on the mantel. Her hands trembled, then steadied. "Mom would have hated this," she whispered. I stood beside her. "Your mother would have hated the disrespect more." Melissa turned to me, voice cracking. "Dad, I want to make this right." "Right doesn't happen with a single apology," I said softly. "Right happens with boundaries you don't break again." Later, a process server arrived, papers for Ryan. Melissa took them without shaking. She read them and set them down like a person who finally understood that consequences aren't cruelty. "Is he coming back?" she asked. "He'll try," I said, "but he can't come back the same way because you're not the same now." That evening we ate a small dinner, nothing fancy. Just warm food, a quiet table, and the strange miracle of a home that didn't feel like a battlefield. Afterward, Melissa asked, "What about the envelope, the charity condition?" I looked at her carefully. "I wrote that condition to wake you up," she swallowed. "And did it?" "It did," I said, "but I'm still donating something." Melissa blinked. "Why?" "Because revenge isn't the point," I said. "Protection is. And because there are people out there who truly need a home." That night, an unknown number texted again. "You think you won?" I stared at it, then set my phone face down. Melissa looked at me, eyes tired. "What if he keeps trying?" I took a slow breath, listening to the quiet of my own house. "Then we keep choosing the truth," I said, "because his power was never strength. It was secrecy." I clicked the TV on and sat in my living room with the remote in my hand, not as an old man they could exile, as the man who built the life they tried to steal. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't hurt, it healed.